Hi, my name is Ellie Drew, your Clairvoyant Researcher. Welcome back to Remember 2, Your Personal Evolution. In this series, we are going to work on clearing you. Remember in the last series, I talked about how you are a hybrid species. You have your bodysuit and you have your soul aspect. Both are very important, and together they make up the sacred partnership when they work together. However, when you're working with your bodysuit, you have to deal with three things: your body, your mind, and your emotions. In this series, at the beginning right here, first I'm going to teach you how to deal with your emotions. When you try to do counseling with a friend or you're talking things over, oftentimes people are coming into the conversation from an intellectual perspective or an emotional perspective. Neither one of them is healthy, because when you talk to the mental aspect of yourself, it communicates in a particular way. When you talk to the emotional aspect of yourself, you are completely talking to a different person within you. The emotional aspect of everyone, no matter how old you are, is a 3-year-old. Yep, everyone. No matter how old you are, it's a 3-year-old. This 3-year-old emotional body is the aspect of you that can help you tap into the high frequencies of abiding love, joy, wonder, inspiration, and gratitude. It's that aspect of ourselves. Remember when you're little kids and you see a little kid who sees a green bug and it just gets so delighted, oh, a green bug! And that delight within is because we are attached to the high frequencies into the emotional body. But oftentimes our emotional body completely sabotages us because we don't know about it. How do you clear the emotional body then? Many years ago, when I was teaching the conscious manifesting process in retreats and workshops, out of my mouth continued to come that you had minds, plural. And finally, it kept happening. And I went into meditation. I said, why, when I go to talk about the mind, do I come out with minds, plural? And they said, you have 5 minds. My communicators said this to me. I said, so what are the 5 minds? Your body has its own natural intelligence. You have an intellectual aspect that allows you to think and perceive and get you into and out of situations. You have the emotional aspect that is information that the Chinese learned a long time ago is stored in the body. So liver, for example, stores anger. The heart is stress and excitability. The spleen is worry and anxiety. The lungs are grief, and the kidneys are fear. All of these emotions are to help you with your prime directive for the physical level, which is survival. Then you have your soul pod that sits right in the center of your chest, and the bottom links into the center of your heart chakra. And then you have the 5th mind, which is that part that communicates between the physical aspect of you, the body, mind, emotion, and the higher aspect of you, your soul, that is trying to help you evolve as a human being on this planet. Now, each one communicates differently. In order for you to hear your intuition, to hear your soul, you need to quiet the noisy body, mind, and emotion. Now, for myself as a clairvoyant, I'm also clairaudient, and I hear the sounds, and for the most part, people are very noisy to me, even when they're quiet. I did some training at a famous mediumship college over in the UK, and I was absolutely astonished at how undisciplined they allowed these people's minds to be. Because even when they were not speaking, I could hear the noise of their system. And it was like fingernails on a chalkboard, jumping up and down and jiggling. It's annoying to me because I hear when people are centered and locked down into their power, and I hear it when they're not, and their mind and their emotions are not controlled. Now, if you go and work with your mind, You need to be able to control it so that it doesn't go into negativity and you can direct it. Remember, this bodysuit is your servant. So, is it your servant or is it running the show here? Oftentimes it's running the show, and that's why people cannot evolve into their higher aspects. The emotions are very precious. They allow us to tap in and connect with our higher aspect and the higher frequencies, but they will also give us a temper tantrum. And what does a temper tantrum look like? Drama. All kinds of drama. Gossip. Negativity. Whining. Pity party. Any of these things are from the emotional aspect. But when my early communicators were telling me about the patterns all through our emotions, our minds, just through nature itself, there was a particular pattern that continued to show up when it was dealing with the emotions. What is the need of the emotions? Why would people act out? Why do you act out? Why do any of us act out? The need of the emotions, remember this, this is critical, this is a key point. You always have to remember this, so you always remember how to deal with the emotions. The emotional system needs to be heard. And deep listening is not something that we're taught. How do you sit down, center, lock in, and truly hear another person? Instead, we go into the polarities, the negative polarity or even the positive polarity, wanting to be nice and have people like you. Either one is not healthy. You need to move into that soul pod where you're neutral, and when you are locked down and centered, you can really hear a person, and that can be completely transformative to people. What if you're by yourself? What if you have a situation like, a common one is, I'm not worthy, or I'm afraid of success, but I'm also afraid of failure. You know, we sabotage ourselves all the time with these emotions that are there. And where do they come from? When you come in with this new experience on planet Earth, you get a soul pod. That soul pod goes down through the central channel and it comes right in to the center of your chest and unlocks down into the heart chakra. Its little tails go down into the lower dantian and that lower center, your power center, and then it links in from there in the back of your sacrum like a big plug-in and connects and communicates with your physical body and its intelligence. When you are in your soul pod and your soul pod is plugged in, it's your soul pod that can hear you. It's your soul pod that is not in any polarity. It is completely neutral. And when it comes in from lifetime to lifetime, it is recording every lifetime that you ever have. Now, what is the job of the soul pod? Recording your experiences so that when you come into another lifetime, you bring those experiences with you. And it's carried with that soul pod. Now, what if that soul pod is carrying the good, the bad, and the ugly? And it goes and locks in to your physical body, and let's say that it's trying to say, you can't make money. This is a very common one because in another lifetime, you were possibly a nun or a monk and you made vows of poverty. That has been recorded into your system. And so you may be playing out an old agreement that you made. And how do you clear out and get rid of these old agreements? All of this is going to be covered in this series. We are going to be working with what I developed called the Emotional Unhooking Process, because I started seeing these big golden hooks in the solar plexus, which is the seat of your emotion. They were thick like rebar, or like my thumb. They were about the size of this stick, only curled and then hanging from the solar plexus. And then from that hook, it threw out into the community and into the environment around you. So somebody might say something to you, and then that hook gets pulled and you react. So it's really critical that if you find yourself reacting, know that you've got a hook and a cord. If you are reacting, it is not about the other person. Remember, that's called projection. You are projecting onto the other person because they happen to trip over one of your invisible threads that you didn't even know that you had out there. So how do you get rid of these hooks? Very common things. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. So we're going to take and practice the breath work, and you're going to start doing some releasing just to practice the breath work, because later on in this series we are going to be doing 21 days of sacred forgiveness ceremony. 21 days of releasing vows and promises that you have made that no longer serve you, and 21 days of anchoring into that vacuum the power thoughts that is going to benefit you in your life. When I got the information for the Architecture of Reality in 2007, I had thought I was going to write that as my third book, and I actually wrote my fourth book before my third book. So my third book then is The Way of the Lotus Flower. The communicators started telling me, put the forgiveness work together with the releasing vows and promises that no longer serve you and the new manifesting statements. And over again, just like a tape, I kept hearing this information, and I was able to put it together and then ask for some of my inner circle if there was anyone who would like to start experimenting with this process that my communicators ended up calling the Way of the Lotus Flower. What I found was this. One woman, she said that she was always trying to manifest positive thoughts. Always. And it didn't make much difference in her life. When she ended up doing the Way of the Lotus Flower practice and first did the emotional unhooking process, did the forgiveness work, did the releasing vows and promises that no longer serve you, she said that for her, it was like, oh my gosh, I've always been trying to plant my flowers in a weeded up garden. So the forgiveness work, the emotional unhooking work, the releasing vows and promises are all cleaning out your personal garden. Another woman said, it was like doing a deep cleaning in my house, and then after a while I just needed to do light dusting. And that's this whole series, is to clear you out, and I'm going to be right here by your side. I am going to be doing this with you. In the process of doing the sacred forgiveness ceremony, there's a particular breath exercise that you need to do. I have tried to do sacred forgiveness ceremony without this breath work, and I can tell you, people don't shift. You need to shift with the breath. And why would that be? Think about a trauma that you have or something that happens in your life. And when you see a trauma, what do? And then you hold it without even realizing you're holding it. In the holding of your breath, your heart continues to go up to that lungs, get that information that you have in your lungs, circulate it all through your physical body, permeating your cellular memory, permeating your entire system and your organs that are communicators for you, that you don't ever want to have that kind of experience happen. So now you have a hook inside of you. If you want to release the hook, you also need to work with that breath in a conscious way. As I started to work with people with the breath, I found out a few things. I would find out if they're taking a new statement that I'm going to be going through the whole process with you, but I would find that they might be doing a half breath in and holding it for the count of 8. It might be that they could do a full breath in, but then their system would sabotage them on the out breath, and they would go, hung, and then I would see the hook go right back. The only time I would see these big golden hooks on the in-breath go out, and then you hold for the count of 8, and if you did a good out-breath out, all the way out, ha, that hook literally dissolved, and the line that went out around you that people might be tripping over, it just completely was gone. So this is really important, especially on the hard things for you, to really do your breath work properly. So we're going to practice on I'm not worthy or I'm not good enough. It doesn't matter to me which one you do. Let's start with I'm not good enough. That's a very common one, and it's very universal no matter where I teach in the world. So this is how the process works. First, you have to acknowledge to your system how you're feeling. When people are not acknowledged for how they're feeling, and they have a friend who's only interacting with them at the mental level, it's two different communication styles. It doesn't work. When you're speaking to the emotional body, you have to communicate from that emotional level, which is acknowledging how a person feels. I had a woman who called me screaming on the phone. I hate my husband. She had some other coarse words for him, and I want to kill him. Now, everyone that she had been reaching out to communicate with her had been, oh, you shouldn't feel that way, or that's not right, you shouldn't feel that way. That's from the emotional judgmental polarity. It did not help that person at all. When she called me and she was screaming, I knew that she needed to be heard. And so I said to her, let's just go through the emotional unhooking process. Trust me on this, and then we're going to get to where you need to be so you can actually have a rational conversation. And so I said to her, in her yelling, I said, just stop. Let's acknowledge to your emotional body that we've heard it so that it can calm down a little bit. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how much do you hate your ex-husband? It's 100. It was way past the scale of 0 to 10. And so I said, okay, just do what I'm asking you to do. We're going to acknowledge to your system this information. Body, mind, and emotion. I command and demand to keep the wisdom I have gained from this situation, and I command and demand to release all pain patterns, perceptions, memories, and stress out of my system. And I had her say very firmly through her system, now. And then I had her breathe out, and then a deep breath in. All the way in. You want to make sure you get a good fresh breath with that new information so it can sit in the lungs and the heart can circulate it around. I had her hold it for way past the count of 8. For the most part for you, I will be doing it to the count of 8. But I had her hold it and hold it and hold it because I wanted her to really permeate her system with this new information, and then breathe it out with a full body breath out. Ha. And then a deep breath in. I had her hold again. Ha. All the way out. A deep breath in, a smile, and a ah. And then you move your spine to get that information down through your spinal cord and to those organs to make sure they have the information. And then I asked her again, so on a scale of 0 to 10, how much do you hate your husband? It wasn't that at all. It was that he hurt my son and my son's feelings. Oh, okay. So on a scale of, and she's still screaming quite loud here, talking quite loud. And I said, so on a scale of 0 to 10, how much anger or frustration or emotion do you have that he hurt your son, or your perception is that he hurt your son? It's 100. And so we went through the entire process again. Body, mind, and emotion. I command and demand to keep the wisdom I have gained from this situation, and I command and demand to release all pain patterns, perceptions, and stress out of my system, really firmly through your system, now. Breathe out so you can get a really good full breath in. And then she did a nice full breath in, more until it almost hurts, and then you hold it. And again, I had her hold it for longer than the count of 8. And when she did the out breaths that sound like this, ah, and then breathe nice fresh oxygen back in. And you just, I just assess people. I hold it until it feels appropriate and like they've cleared, and then out again. and then in, and then smile. Ah! Move your spine so you can make sure that it gets down into the communication centers of your organs, and then reassess. She reassessed, and now, oh, it wasn't that at all, and then now she was able to communicate in a rational manner. So you can't talk to somebody when they're being irrational, and we say to people, you're being irrational. That is your signal that they are not talking to you from a rational state of mind. They are talking to you from an emotional state of mind. And so that emotional mind must be dealt with at its own level by acknowledging it. You see, your body is created to help you physically survive. So if your emotions are going off, that's telling you information, important information. Because when your soul pod comes in that has carried information from lifetime to lifetime, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we have lost the technology for how to clear our soul field itself so that we can gain the wisdom we have had from these experiences, we don't know that we don't have to keep the pain patterns, perceptions, memories, and stress in our system. We need to let the system know, thank you very much, I've got the information, you don't need to be bugging me about this any longer. So let's practice now with you. Now, I have it set up here that I am going to do a breath work, and I'm going to bend down farther, and it's what I want you to do, and then I'm not going to continue to bend down as far when I'm doing this here on the camera for you. But I'm wanting you to be very physical with it. The more physical that you can be with it, the deeper out of cellular memory you can clear yourself. Now, there's some other tips that I want to give you. When you're breathe out as much as you can, and the most important part then is that deep, deep, deep breath in, and then hold. And while you're holding, you are going to have stress in your system where that particular emotional energy is held in cellular memory. Some of you might feel it in your solar plexus. Some of you might feel it in your lower back. Some of you might feel it in your joints, or your shoulders feel tense and you feel it between your shoulder blades or your shoulders. And so wherever you feel it, it's almost like I see tiny, tiny little hooks. Like we've got the big hook here at the solar plexus for an issue, per issue. But how it's locked into cellular memory is tiny, almost like fly fishing hooks, if you've ever seen those. They're so tiny you can hardly even see them. I don't even know how they catch fish with them. But they're tiny, tiny. And so when you're holding your breath, I want you to also imagine that these tiny, tiny little hooks are starting to just bubble up like effervescence out of every cell of your body. When you do this, it helps you because now you are using the geometric formula for transformation, which is what? Here's your testing time. It's those 3 rings that I was showing you earlier. The word, the sound, remember you've got to have a command, so we're going to give you those command statements, and then use your imagination. If you want to have 95% clearing instead of 5% clearing and continuing to go to counselors for years on end, then keep doing what you're doing. If you're ready to shift, you have to use the geometric formula for transformation. So you have the word, I command and demand to keep the wisdom I have gained out of these situations, and I command and demand my body, mind, and emotion release the pain patterns, perceptions, memories, and stress out of my system now. And when you do that now, do it like a sonic wave from your center out. Okay? All right, so that's another tip that I want you to have. And then when you do the ha out, and I'll say release. There's 2 things that you can do. One, I want you to imagine you have a spirit flame in front of you. For those of you who work with the Saint Germain's purple flame, you may have that. Some of you have dragon energy and you want to work with that red, orange, yellow flames. There's other color flames. Maybe you're really connected with earth and a green flame will show up for you. So don't have any judgment about what color the flame is and one is more special than another. That's just nonsense. It's your imagination that you have the fire energies, the fire spirits are coming to assist you. Invite in the wind spirits that can flow through the empty spaces in your energy body. Remember, all of creation that we know it can all be summed up in one ball the size of a baseball. That means there's a lot of empty spaces you have, and you want that fresh, renewed feeling. So imagine that this spirit breeze is coming through and blowing through you. When you breathe out, sometimes you have to really have your mind help you and force yourself to do a full body and then another fresh breath in. Now, if your breath goes stop, do it again. Force yourself to do a full body breath out. Now, I have a friend who, for some reason, she's like, I just cannot do that. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I just can't do it. Her system yawns in a big, big yawn. Because think of all the fresh breath you get with that yawn. It's even deeper. And then when you yawn out, when you breathe out. The key is that you're getting full breaths in and full breaths out, however is going to work for you. I'm going to tell you the process that I teach in classes and that is going to help you to the best of my ability to teach you. All right, so let's start with I'm not good enough. So on a scale of 0 to 10, assess yourself. So I'm not good enough for a job, I'm not good enough to have good relationships, I'm not good enough for, just whatever. Or I don't feel worthy, I don't feel good enough. Everybody else is good enough, I'm not, whatever that is. So just do a mental assessment for yourself on a scale of 0 to 10. Okay, you've got your number. All right, because you want to reassess it afterwards. So get ready, and I don't want you laying down to watch this. You need to be sitting on a chair where you can physically bend over. Even in my classes, I have them change chairs. I won't let them sit on squishy couches. I won't let them lay down. They need a firm seat that they can sit on, because this is work. This is the work of a spiritual warrior now. So if you're going to clear yourself, you want to be in the best position you can to do that. So, okay, I'm assuming that you've got a good chair and you're ready to go and you're not just going to listen to me here. You're actually going to do the work. And I mean do the work. I actually kick people out of my class if they're not going to do the work. In China, I was teaching this, and one woman refused to do it. I want the more important information. I came here for all the high consciousness level information. No, I'm just going to sit here and I'm just waiting for it. And she had a real attitude, and I said, get out. What do you mean, get out? I said, I know what a person needs to do to shift their life. And I know that if you're not going to do the work, you're not going to shift, and why bother be here? You have my permission to leave. Actually, I'm going to tell you, you have to leave. And then she got talked into staying at least until noon on that first day. Just till noon. And this woman did the work even when she didn't want to, even when she had bad attitude. She is the person in that 30 group class that had the biggest breakthrough of anyone. And so I'm telling you, do the work because it will help to shift you. And you have to prove it out to yourself. So let's see if you can prove it out to yourself now. So body, mind, and emotion. I command and demand to keep the wisdom I have gained about not feeling worthy. And I command and demand. Now remember, you're not commanding and demanding God. You're commanding and demanding yourself, your body, mind, and emotion to line up and pay attention and to be part of this. So I command and demand body, mind, and emotion to release all pain patterns, perceptions, memories, and stress out of my system around not being worthy. Say it now. Breathe out. Breathe in. Deep breath in through the nose as deep as you can, and hold. Now I have you hold it for the count of 8. Now be ready with your spirit flame to breathe out. Ha! Breathe it in. Hold. Get all those tiny little hooks out. Breathe it out. Ha! Breathe it in. Smile. Ah! Move your spine. Let that communication get out to those organs. Continue to do some nice deep breaths again. Start to feel that bigger amount of room you have inside of yourself. And now reassess. So whatever your number was, it's very common for it to drop out. Now, if you have layers of information, you might go, well, okay, I feel worthy, but I don't feel confident. Okay, let's do confident. Body, mind, and emotion. So remember, you're acknowledging the emotional mind. So it knows you have the information, so it doesn't have to keep going, you're not confident, you're not confident, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. It's like, come on, I want, go away. Well, you can't make it go away. You have to talk to it. It's like, oh, what do you need? You're trying to tell me something? Oh, you need acknowledged, you need heard. Be compassionate for your emotional self. So here goes, body, mind, and emotion. I command and demand to keep the wisdom I have gained about not feeling confident. And I command and demand to release all pain patterns, perceptions, memories, and stress out of my system. Feel it from your center. Now, breathe out. So you can do a full breath in and in through the nose. Breathe in as deep as you can until it almost hurts. And hold. Remember, use your imagination to get all those other hooks out, tiny, tiny fly fish size hooks out. And release into your spirit flame. Ha! Deep breath in. And release. Ha! Third breath in. Equally deep. Smile. Ah! Just collapse with it. And now move your spine. Get that information throughout your system. And that is the emotional unhooking process. Remember, your emotions are there to communicate to you important information that it felt like it picked up for you or you unconsciously took on. This is how you unhook that. Now we're going to do one that we have to do when we get into the forgiveness ceremony. When we get into the third forgiveness of the forgiveness ceremony, which is forgive others, I have run into people in my audiences. I do this as a keynote event for conferences, the sacred forgiveness ceremony. And what if you have someone that, like I have run into, where your child has been murdered, where a family member or a loved one has been killed by a drunk driver? We have the Black Lives Matter, that is a huge thing, where we're finding that our black brothers and sisters are being treated differently than if you have white skin. We're talking about deep, deep soul damage. And you can't get to that third forgiveness, forgive someone else, because there might be anger and that injustice that you're feeling down to your bones, like, no, I won't forgive. I can't forgive. Because if I forgive them, it's like making it okay what their actions were and what happened. Remember, forgiveness is never about making the actions where someone hurt someone else okay. It's never okay. However, you can release the emotions around it so that you can be free to use that injustice energy in a positive way. So for those of you who have to stop when we get to the third part of the forgiveness, this is the process that you would use. I command and demand to keep the wisdom I have gained from this injustice or from this situation or about this person. And I command and demand body, mind, and emotion to release all pain patterns, perceptions, memories, and stress out of my system now. And you do the same process. So keep that in mind as we go through your 21 days of the Way of the Lotus Flower practice, and particularly when you get to that third aspect of the forgiveness ceremony, the third forgiveness, which is give others forgiveness. So I know you're curious, what's the first and second one? All right, the first forgiveness is yourself. Forgive yourself for all those things you've done, said, haven't done, avoided doing. The second forgiveness is asking others to forgive you, because you have to forgive yourself first and then ask others to forgive you for those same things. And then the third forgiveness is to give others forgiveness. When we do this, we start freeing ourselves really deep down to our bones. All right, so now let's just review the entire process for the emotional unhooking process. 1, you've got 5 minds. Your body has its intellect, your mind, your emotions, you have your soul pod, which is your higher self aspect, and you have the intuition, which is the communication between your body pod and your soul pod. All right. Each one communicates differently. When you're dealing with the emotions, what is the need of the emotions? Testing time, testing, testing, testing. To be acknowledged, to be heard. Always remember this. And then for the process then, 1, you assess yourself. How strongly do I feel about this? When you are assessing yourself, you're looking for your 8s, 9s, and 10s, okay? Because if you get your 8, 9s, and 10s, things that you really feel edgy about, then the ones below that tend to resolve themselves. So look for the things that you feel really strongly about. And you may not be feeling strongly about something right now, but at least this is going to be a tool in your toolbox. So when something happens in your life and all that emotion comes up and you can't deal with it and you keep trying to talk to people who aren't really hearing you, it doesn't matter, because you can hear you, you can acknowledge you, and you can unhook this hook yourself. So assess, and then you have the acknowledgement statements. I will have this as a PDF so that you can have the words. Otherwise, just start writing down the words now, because they're always the same. Also remember, you are not commanding, demanding God or into the God field or into the source field. You're not commanding that. You're commanding your own system, your body, your mind, and your emotion to line up and pay attention here. Here's the statements. I command and demand body, mind, and emotion to keep the wisdom I have gained from this situation. And I command and demand to release all pain patterns, perceptions, memories, and stress out of my system now. And push it out. And then you breathe out, breathe in, hold for 8 or more until you feel a shift inside of you. Breathe out with that ha, critical. You get that ha all the way out. Breathe in again, hold until you get all those little hooks out. Breathe out, ha, again. Sometimes I have to have people do this multiple times if it's something that's really edgy for them. And then that last time you breathe in with a smile. And then, that full body collapse. And then you move your spine. And then sometimes you need something like sound. Sound can help to clear that field. Or you'll feel stress in your system, and like you feel stress in your chest. You might pat it down. You might have to stand up. Sometimes people need to stand up and just, shout. So move your body. That's the energy that is shifting around in your body, and all of that is okay. And when I do this on stage, I always pause at the end of doing any process to have people pat themselves down, continue to breathe, stand up and stretch, really let that new information and energy permeate their entire system. And when they get done, we have had physical healings, mental healings for people with depression, psychosis. We have had deep emotional healings. and people are able to get on with their life without the drama. And that is my wish for you, that you can get on with your life without the drama. And now you've got a wonderful tool in your toolbox that is absolutely easy to do. Anyone can do this. Please share it with your friends, share it with your family, and be happy. I am Ellie Drew, your clairvoyant researcher. Many blessings to you as we go through healing your soul field.